Tusen Tag and welcome to the newest live stream on a Sunday. Seeing the ad right in front of, right before my live stream, I had to ask myself, at least in the German version, what they showed me, if they know the topics I'm talking about, because I saw some anti-diarrhea medication ad here before my live stream started. So YouTube is funny. So first of all, hi Katrina, hi Chatty, hi Roseanne. It's nice to see our little Sunday evening small talk group again. It's always nice to see you. Today we are missing another menu. I hope we're going to see Ellie soon. Hi CJ, hi FY. That's the fun part. I need my glasses. I can read what all I need up there, but I cannot read what's up close and right in front of my nose. Very funny. But there were some topics this week. Not everything is politics. I just thought that I include a little bit else today. That's quite remarkable. But of course, I'm gonna start with politics, and more people are coming in. Hi Murgi, hi Sock Juice, hi Harry, and I hope I haven't overlooked someone yet. Politics. I talked a lot about Frontex and everything this week in the videos, and there are still some other things around Brexit that people never talk about, and that, by the way, is the EIB. You will hear about the EIB in some of my noon videos in the future, of course. But the EIB was important for Britain for as long as Britain was still a member. And then they left. And the EIB is the European Development Bank. And now there is talk everywhere about, because the British development banks, of course, had to take over the job of the EIB when the UK left the EU. But I read a lot this week about the British development banks, that they have been unable to plug the hole created by Brexit in infrastructure and climate financing. They do say they are doing a good job in financing SMEs, but that they still are missing the EIB a lot. And I just want to give you one example here from my EU stuff. There's a thing called Invest EU. And something that's happening right now is that the EIB and crowd farming signed a loan to support a sustainable food supply chain and organic farmers in Europe. So the European Investment Bank, the EIB, has signed a venture debt loan of 15 million euros backed by the Invest EU program with crowd farming. That's an online platform for European farmers to sell directly to end consumers without the big ones in between. And the EIB financing is supposed to help to boost the research, development and innovation activities of the company by enhancing their digital marketplace and developing tools that promote sustainable agricultural practices across Europe and a more sustainable and fair food supply chain. So this is just one example what the EIB is doing, and what the EIB, until Brexit finally happened, also did for the UK. This is just one of those small things that people always forget when they talk about Brexit. There was a lot happening in more or less in the background, because who cares for what happened in the EU, honestly. That's another point why I restarted doing these videos here on this channel, because people are talking a lot about the EU, but they don't really know what's happening there. And this happened in the UK as well until Brexit. And I guess nobody who was not in certain businesses never even took notice of this. And this is just one little example here. And to just tell you, because I always learn a lot myself, because there's a lot out there I've never heard of. And crowdfarming, those with the 15 that get the 15 million now, have a marketplace that currently has more than 300 farmers from 13 European countries selling to end consumers without intermediaries. And in this innovative farmer-to-consumer system, farmers set their own prices and customers get fresh, organic, in-season food delivered straight from the farm to their doors. So it has a lot of advantages. It will not be cheap, and for me as well, it would be more like a luxury, but it is a very interesting thing. And crowdfarming provides the farmers with the website, the logistics, the customer service, the training and marketing support. And they are selected by agronomists. They're acting as farmer hunters who ensure that they apply the highest sustainability, quality and production standards. And to join this marketplace, farms must practice organic agriculture or be transitioning towards such practices. And crowdfarming has also become a main selling channel for pioneering farmers who implement regenerative practices that are good for the environment and the biodiversity. And biodiversity plays a big role. I live in the more rural part of a big city, on the outskirts of the city, and that is quite charming, I must say. It's like we are part of a big city, but we are kind of a village community here. It's quite nice. Also with everybody knowing everybody and everything. So, and being the deputy district mayor, so a lot of people know me here. No, but when there's a big highway from the next borough to mine, and on the side of the highway, there are a lot of farms, and along the fields, they are building now a lot of those biodiversity lanes, so to speak. They are planting trees and everything else next to the fields to give, so to speak, the housing place for a lot of different insects and so on. We know we need them, and they need bees and everything for their fields anyway. And there you can see a lot of development in biodiversity even within the cities now. And the EIB financing will now accelerate the transition to a more sustainable, efficient and fair food supply and supply chain in Europe. And those practices with biodiversity, sustainability and regeneration will grow there. And that is just, as I said, one little example what the EIB was doing also in the UK at the time. And that is just another point what people forgot. And I have to take off my glasses anyway, because I was so happy last weekend when I heard the weather reports. It's getting colder, and now to the weekend it got warmer again. So I'm sweating like hell in these slides again today, besides the fact that I was working like hell this weekend. But yeah, Joao, if you like to watch the Euronews in the EU Parliament, then you're one of very few people, because most don't. It's the same with the House of Commons, for example. Everybody has the chance to watch every session there, like with our Bundestag and so on. But who seriously does? I mean, time is one of the points, but when you even if you have the time, who does that? I mean, some people are give me really weird looks when I'm on my way to city center or wherever. I always have stuff like this on my ears, and then somebody talks to me and I say, I'm in preparation of a video, I'm listening to this in this parliament at the moment, and they're looking at me and like, of how crazy are you? And that's a way to do it. On trains and on buses, you can listen to parliaments or what's happening there. But how many people seriously do that? That's another topic for my German viewers. I mean, we have a lot of discussion about our public television here and about their financing. And I personally think that our public television should come back to their real job. And for me, public television has a pure information job to do because they are publicly financed as well, and they don't have to do blockbusters and telenovelas and whatever. They should stick to information and okay, they can do sports as well because there's a lot of sports the paying the companies, the commercial ones, don't care about, and they should show the people that it's happening where a lot of our people are competing. But if you want to watch Parliament on television here, for example, you have to go to one of those side channels, and you don't see it on the main channels, and that's one of the problems. And I know that people don't watch it as often, but they should have the chance to do it easily if they want to. And it should be advertised that people look at this more closely, because what we see in the comments a lot under my videos is that the people are just so ill-informed. Because if you know how things are and you read a lot of the comments under videos on certain topics, you think, has he never read anything? Or has he never read anything but Nigel Farage's Twitter account or so? Because there's so much nonsense going on there. And if you just would have watched a few sessions of Parliament or whatever, you would know better. And so that's why it's quite a shame that this is not happening more often, that people are not very in the mood to inform themselves anymore. I mean, there's a flood of stuff nowadays, of course, when I grew up, and now it's not the old times were better. I'm not saying this, but I'm just saying they were different. We had 3 TV channels when I grew up, and if I wanted to see the new ones that came up while I was younger, I had to go to my grandmother, because only they had the channels. We at home didn't have them, so we only had 3. So there was not so much that way to avoid certain information. And the other thing was, you were not distracted that much. I mean, if you look around, and of course I have to do this a lot myself for business reasons, and working, and I have to keep an eye on the channels and everything that's going on. So people have their mobile phones in their hands a lot of times, and instead of talking to each other. And so they are on it all the time, but only usually in their own bubbles. And I talked about this and in the past a lot, so I will not go to this bubble stuff too much again, but that is indeed a big problem. And so I'm trying everything I can to keep people a little bit informed as well about what's going on outside their bubble. That's another reason why I put these EU videos in my noon videos now, to give people information, to make information-based decisions in the future. There will be discussions someday. And I mean serious discussions. A lot of people are demanding it already, that the UK joins the EU again. But I mean, the time for the serious discussion is now. It's not happening. But there will come a time where this will be seriously discussed. And then I want the people to be able to make informed decisions. And to make informed decisions, you need information, and you need to know what's going on in reality. Because if there ever is a second referendum on the UK to join the EU again, and you once again heard, I don't call it rejoin, because it would be something very different. The people need to be properly informed. And I'm sure the day will come, because there's a lot of people now who could vote that couldn't vote on the last referendum. There are, as bad as it sounds, but there are quite a number of people that voted for leave in the last referendum that are not alive anymore because of their age, and so on and so on. So the time will come, but the people need to have proper information. What we don't need is another campaigning like at that time, and we'll see who tries to influence such a campaign. But nevertheless, there was some preaching in the beginning already, but I was working so much because the next week will be completely wild. And so before I talk about next week a little bit, I just want to say hello to a few more, because Roisin, hi there, and Ellie, hi Ellie. The menu card for Mark. Oh, a lot of nice stuff there. Delicious, except the fish. I do eat salmon from time to time, but I'm not a big fish lover. But salmon is one of the fish I can cope with. But pumpkin, curry soup, and so on sounds great. So, still need to do one live stream from your dinner table, Ellie. Thank you very much for that. Sorry. Luke knows how much I worked this weekend alone because of next week, so he will understand why I look so driven down, so to speak, at the moment, and why I'm not in the best shape. Next week, as I said, I already have to say I cannot guarantee that there will be a live stream next week because we are getting into budget time now. And that's why I worked like hell yesterday, like crazy. I will be on 2 days away this week for a conference, on a council conference on all the budget stuff. And when I'm talking about budget, I can show you something little. That is something I got yesterday. Yeah, looks like this. And like this. And that's what we are discussing in the next weeks. And for this, we have a conference for my district council faction group this week. And so I'll be away for 2 days. And I had to do a lot of pre-working. I was writing 20 videos yesterday alone and doing the descriptions and the thumbnails, and I somehow have to fill them all tomorrow. But there's a lot more I still need for that week, and I will be not there. And I also have additional appointments this week because of all this stuff. And so I already want to tell you that I cannot promise that there will be another live stream next Sunday. But I will let you know in time if there will or will be not. If there's no live stream announcement on my channel page on Sunday morning, there will not be a live stream. There will be a video instead, because I will return later on Saturday, and so it's a little bit busy. But that was the private outlooks. You see, all my voluntary work is keeping me busy as well, and that's all unpaid voluntary work. A lot of politics here is unpaid voluntary, and that's all I'm doing, and being responsible for a lot of stuff. I mean, we are discussing 1.5 billion euros there in these little 2 books, and none of them will be paid to me. That's the problem of the whole thing. But the nice thing is people in local politics at least can see what you have done when you've done something, because it's right in front of their doorstep. And by the way, again, Murgi, because or Luke, because I mentioned you already, thanks again for taking care of the little comments today. Takes a lot of stress away from me for always thinking about, oh, I still have to put in one. So thank you very much for this. And I had to cut you off earlier because I was setting up the camera. Yeah, I'm using my good mobile camera all the time, but of course I must not forget to put it on flight mode, so I can't be reached anymore, but at least no one is just interrupting the video and destroying the live stream. So I thought about this. Oh yes, Morgan, you used a very nice one right now. Merch. Under my videos, there's usually a little bit of merch to see, but if you go to my channel, there's the shop as well. And I'm not saying buy something, I just say go there. You will remember one thing a little bit from one of my videos. Just go there, have a laugh. It is a very fitting one. I had to use the new design. I had to use it because I made it for a video, but then I thought, no, I have to use it for merch as well. And there's a little subtle thing in the background for this. You will know at the title of the merch what it is, but you have to look very closely to really see all the details. after the fun part. So have a look and have a laugh. Sock Juice, hey, thank you very much with the hardworking. There are other hardworking people, and they are in dispute with the Conservative government for a long time at the moment. And those are the UK train drivers. And now they will stage 2 more strikes, as the union said. They said this on Friday, and the latest walkouts in a long-running industrial dispute that will be, and which will coincide with the governing Conservative Party's annual conference. So, passengers in Britain have faced severe disruption to their travel since last year, as transport workers seek better pay to get through a cost of living crisis due to high inflation. And the ASLEF said drivers would strike on September 30th and October 4th. And there would also be an overtime ban across the network between September 29th and October 6th. And the Rail Delivery Group, which represents Britain's train operators, said that the union had rejected a fair and affordable offer without putting it to the members. And the new industrial action will clash, as I said, with the annual conference held by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservatives in Manchester. That's from October 1st since October 4th. So, I mean, it's the Tories, so not too many of them will come by train, I guess. Because we know Sunak is not so fond of public transport. He rather takes the helicopter, as we all know. And the others, I mean, we know their, let's say, income base usually. So that will not be an issue for them, but a lot of other people will be affected by these strikes again. And of course, there is a problem if you grant too high wages during high inflation, because it can drive inflation. But a little thing is that the UK has record inflation compared to others, because they have the same as everybody else because of the pandemic, the Ukraine war, and so on. But everything is exacerbated by Brexit now, as we can see. And proper wages, and they have a wage gain in general, as I said in one of my videos, with 0.6%. It's not much after the losses of the last 13 years, but still it's a gain. But it's not driving inflation that much as usually, because when we look at the last wage discussions in public service here in Germany, they got a double-digit raise, and we had single-digit inflation. And it didn't drive our inflation. Our inflation went down, and it's still lower than in the UK. And that cannot be used as an we would say, how do I translate this to English? Yeah, we would say that's just a club them to death argument. It isn't. Yeah, they cannot say, we cannot give you higher wage ranges, it's not good for the country. That doesn't work the whole time, because unfortunately Germany is an example that it not automatically raises inflation, because it didn't. And they got much higher pay rises here than in the UK in the last discussions. But there was one topic I had to skip a little bit. I don't know why, because we always talked about different things, and so COVID was for a long time no real topic here on my channel, although the new variant that was discovered in the UK, from what I know, but I forgot the name again, COVID is still spreading. It's not having that serious effects, because we know that the newer variants were all very, very infectious, but not very dangerous hurt people seriously, but it was spreading. And so we probably have a lot of COVID patients here in Germany, or people staying home sick with COVID just without knowing, because the normal doctors don't do COVID tests anymore when someone comes with a cold. So it could be a cold, could be COVID, but nobody will know, because in most cases nobody will care because of all the number of vaccinated people and so on. But the EU Commission has authorized a second adapted vaccine for some autumn vacation campaigns now. There's something called the Spikevax XBB 1.5 adapted COVID-19 vaccine developed by Moderna. And they say it's another important step in the fight against the disease. And it's the third adaptation of this vaccine to respond to new COVID-19 variants. So it is still a topic, but not a very big topic in the news. But the European Medicines Agency, that's responsible for this, carried out a stringent evaluation of the vaccine under the accelerated assessment mechanism they introduced that time. And following this evaluation, the Commission authorized the adapted vaccine under an expedited procedure so that member states can prepare in time for their autumn-winter vaccination campaigns. And those are indeed still important for older or vulnerable people. And in line with the previous recommendations by the EMA and the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control, the ECDC, adults and children from 5 years age who require vaccination are invited to take a single dose irrespective of their COVID-19 vaccination history. So with the EU vaccine strategy, the Commission continues to ensure that member states have access to the latest authorized COVID-19 vaccines to protect the vulnerable members of their population and to deal with the epidemiological evolution of the virus. And there is not only Omicron now, or there's another variant of Omicron with a new name in this. I cannot even follow this, but this new vaccine is expected to increase the immunity against current, dominant, and emerging variants. And so it's important to stay on it. And that's why I put these topics in from time to time. The last times I was going astray too much during my live stream, that I didn't reach the point where I had COVID on my list. But that's why I put it higher today with a new vaccine, to let everybody know that it's still a topic, because most people are not talking about this anymore. But vulnerable people still need to have a current vaccination, and they should do it, and should talk to their doctors about this. For others, it will not be a big problem. They just get a cold if they get this virus or another, or some bacteria as usual in winter. It will not make a big difference for them. They will just be sick for a few days. But there are still people to whom those viruses are still more dangerous. And let's have a quick look at the chat and see if something came after the pizza discussion. Katrina, I don't know if the UK authorities have set up this the permissions for this vaccine yet, so don't know if they are using it yet. So because people are not talking about this much anymore, there is not much on the, let's say, easy sources to get. So in some cases you have to get to look for very special sources to find some information at all. And don't know if the UK is using this newest Moderna vaccine already, if they have granted access. So I can't say. And before I go to another topic, seeing Ellie and especially her avatar again, I have to add something, because I saw one of the comments, Ellie, you posted under one of my other videos, because that you're getting all the Markus Söder adverts at the moment. I'm quite sure that that YouTube is listening very carefully to live streams nowadays, and that is then because of I don't think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago when we had the Aiwanger thing running, and at the day I was doing the live stream, Markus Söder had a press conference on this, and when he allowed them to stay in office. And maybe YouTube was listening very carefully that I was talking about Markus Söder for once in one of my videos, and suddenly, combined with your avatar, always gave you Markus Söder adverts. I must admit for quite some time, 2 years ago, I always saw some Nigel Farage adverts before my own videos. That was not fun at all. And my channel is set to German. That's the weirdest thing about that. But nevertheless, so that's what I wanted to comment on. But it's only a few weeks left, isn't it, until the elections there, and so then the adverts will stop. But German politics is an interesting topic at the moment as well. But that really doesn't belong here on the channel unless it has something to do with Britain. There will be one video next week where I do talk about Germany as well, because it's something that Britain is doing together with Germany, France, and the USA, and that's why it will be a topic here on this channel as well. But another thing about the Germans, or more the Bavarians, and I saw the discussion about Bavarians and Germans, and that the Bavarians want to leave Germany. That's a very old rumor running around that they picked up for that discussion. I don't know who told you this, Ali, or came up with that all the time when he was discussing with you, but that's a very old one. Yes, the Bavarians could secede from Germany if they want to, but they don't want to. They have it in their constitution. That's true. They could, but they don't want to. But I was talking about something Bavarian, that was BMW. So in German that is BMW and Mini. And the investment in the UK now in 2 new Mini models, that they will produce e-models there because the government pays a lot of money. And the same is with Tata Steel. Now we had the thing here that they are paying £500 million to Tata Steel that they will not leave, and they will pay it to decarbonize Tata Steel's Welsh site. And with that, they want to secure the future of the country's steel industry. But they will invest, the overall investment will be £1.25 billion and in total, and that is £750 million investment from Tata, but also 500 million from the government. And it's supposed to be a switch to lower emission electric arc furnaces from the current coal-powered methods. And Britain said on Friday the deal would help to safeguard 5,000 jobs with £500 million. I mean, you can start calculating now how much money the government gives per job. So £500 million for 5,000 jobs. There is a downside there as well, because at the moment, Tata Steel UK employs more than 8,000 people. So that means that in the future, there seem to be 3,000 redundancies, because the lower carbon electric furnaces are less labor intensive. But Kemi Badenoch said the deal was the right thing for Britain and the workforce overall. And she said, we are saving jobs which would have been lost without this investment. We would probably have seen the end of steelmaking, certainly in this part of the country. I mean, Tata Steel is another India-owned company, and they had long warned that without government help, they would close the Port Talbot site. And Britain said the new electric furnaces would cut the country's total carbon emissions by around 1.5%, noting that Port Talbot is the biggest single carbon emitter. But the British government has been under pressure from businesses to help fund the transition to green energy. And company bosses have warned that Britain is falling behind the United States, which has benefited from the subsidies of the Inflation Reduction Act, and the European Union, which also have incentive schemes there. But the UK government said the £500 million steel grant was one of the largest state support packages in UK history. And the deal follows an undisclosed level of financing the government provided to Tata Group and the parent company of Tata Steel. They already did that in July to build an electric vehicle battery plant in England. And we, until today, don't know how much money that was exactly. So they're paying now 500 million for 5,000 jobs. And they will only be guaranteed for a limited time. And there's also British Steel. And as usual, it's not British owned. British Steel is owned by the Chinese company Jingye, which operates coal-fired blast furnaces in Scunthorpe and which has about 4,000 staff. They hope they will be the next in line for a grant. And Britain's steel industry directly employs around 40,000 people, according to figures released by UK Steel, and supports a further 50,000 jobs in the supply chain. And the government said that Tata Steel UK would now inform and consult with staff and unions, but those unions immediately criticized the government for not investing more in Port Talbot and failing to secure job guarantees with Tata. So they didn't even get job guarantees there. And the Union Unite will now fight the company. But a domestic steelmaking industry, it's like Germany, is crucial to Britain's security because it's used to build warships and fighter jets, as well as underpinning the manufacturing and transport sectors. So they will have to do something. But there's the problem then if everything is owned by foreign companies. It was easier before, at least in the automotive industry. A lot of companies were owned by other EU companies. That was a little bit easier to deal with than with third countries' owners. But it's interesting to see that they are doing this. But it's like the 10 billion investment of the German government, which I criticize a lot in Eastern Germany at the moment, just for one project. Although, even if it's a battery project, still, you cannot. And for once, I have to agree again. Although there's a lot of trouble in this government, but I have to agree with our finance minister at the moment. You cannot subsidize everyone. So you will have to make very important choices. And of course, that is an argument pro the Tata subsidies now. But it's very expensive just for one thing. And no, it was a chip factory in Eastern Germany, not battery. Battery is here. I talked about this already in my hometown, the new battery research facility and everything that was much cheaper. And it's from our university. Last week, our city council group meeting was at our university. Our university headquarters, so to speak, is in our former palace. And it's a very nice building. Luke, I sent you a picture from there, so you've seen it. You haven't seen it when we were walking through the city. We have not been to that part. But it's a very nice building. And there's a big fair 3 times a year in front of it. So it's nice. But our university is playing a big role in all these future developments. And so strengthening the universities is an important part. And that's, once again, why all the researchers and everything were really angry about the UK government, that they took so long with their decision to rejoin Horizon. And they lost a lot of time there, because our universities are the most important thing to prepare for the future. And they are the most important thing in all the battery research and renewable energy research and everything we need at the moment. And in everything else, we need to be competitive in the future. And so harming universities and research is a thing we shouldn't do. So I'm very glad that, for example, our university here is getting a lot of assistance from our state government. And our university is also having a great startup program here with very successful startups coming out of this. And so that is something what we need, the pure old industry that we were all used to in the last century. That is not necessarily the future of our continent. But always this preaching again, I know. You might have gotten that I'm switching a bit in this live stream because of the new stuff on my videos, between one purely UK thing usual and one EU thing again, because I want to remind people more and more what is really going on out there. And we're talking, I talked about budgets, but the EU has a much bigger budget, and there is a lot straining this budget, so to speak, because all the crises they have to deal with, they have to find ways to finance it. And it was not a problem when the UK left. There was no major discussion about the financing. There's a discussion about certain things that happened in the pandemic that were for a one-time thing that cannot happen again, because it's not part of the regulations in the EU. But it was a very extraordinary situation. So I understand this, but usually they have to deal with the budget they have. Everybody has to deal with his own debts, and there's no way to have common debts, so to speak, usually. But the EU itself has to raise a lot of money to deal with things, and also the Russian war of aggression in Ukraine at the moment. And so they are issuing so-called EU bonds at the moment. I know people were very, was a controversial topic with the EU bonds. And the Commission that issues EU bonds on behalf of the EU has raised a further 5 billion euros of EU bonds in its 9th syndicated transaction for 2023 now. The single transaction consisted of a new 7-year bond due on December 4th in 2030. And market conditions leading up to the transactions were more subdued, with investors awaiting clarity on further changes in euro interest rates. You know, as much as people are waiting for interest rate decisions from the Bank of England, of course, people are waiting for those decisions all the time from the ETB. But the deal was still met with strong interest from investors who played bids in excess of 46 billion euros, making for an oversubscription rate of over 9 times. So 9 times as many bonds were demanded as they could deliver. And so they are showing continued solid market access for the European Commission. So everybody's saying the EU is at the end, as we hear for decades now, or that they are broke and whatever. No, the people want their bonds. Other countries can throw them on the feet of some people and they wouldn't pick them up. But they could have sold 9 times as many bonds as they did now. So much about the unattractive EU and the broken EU. The proceeds of these transactions will be used to support both the Next Generation EU Recovery Programme and the Macro Financial Assistance Plus programme for Ukraine. And that's in line with the Commission's approach of issuing single-branded EU bonds rather than separately labeled bonds for individual programs. With this transaction I was talking about, the Commission has completed approximately 28% of its 40 billion funding target for the second half of 2023. So they always set up a target for half a year, and then not all at once, but time by time, they give out those bonds. And the detailed overview of the planned transactions for the second half of 2023 is already available in the EU funding plan. So that means the European Commission borrows on international capital markets on behalf of the European Union and disperses the funds to member states and third countries under those various borrowing programs. EU borrowing is guaranteed by the EU budget, and this is one of these exceptions they made. And contributions to the EU budget are an unconditional legal obligation of all member states under the EU treaties. And since January 23, the European Commission has been issuing single-branded EU bonds rather than those labeled ones, as I said. And the basis of these EU bonds raised since mid-21. On this basis, the Commission has so far disbursed 153.38 billion euros in grants and loans to the EU member states under the Recovery and Resilience Facility, on top of further support to other EU programs benefiting from Next Generation EU funding. And the Commission has also disbursed 12 billion euros to Ukraine under this Assistance Plus program. And another 1.5 billion are scheduled for later this month. And the whole year, this will deliver 18 billion euros to the Ukraine for 23. And there were also loans and stuff like that. But this is one thing, how they finance all those reaction programs, so to speak, to crises in the meantime. I know Uwe has a very fond opinion on this, if I remember correctly. Verti, I don't know if you're there. I think you were one of those who were criticizing that as well, if I remember correctly. If not, please let me know in the comments. But I heard some loud voices in my comments when they issued them in 2021, and I hope I remember correctly. But at the moment, it is working, and they are using this to finance everything that's important because of all the crises we have to deal with. And I don't know anybody of a sound mind that does not want to assist Ukraine in their defense against this war of aggression. And it is a war. It is a war against international law. In the end, this war already started in 2014 when Russia illegally annexed the Crimea. And of course, a country has the right to defend itself. And so it's absolutely important that democracies, at least, assist a country in defending itself. But let me have a quick look at the comments. There was some discussion on the vaccines, I guess, when I said this. Ellie, to be honest, I will definitely wear a mask on commuter trains again, because even if it's not COVID, all the time that we had the mask requirement, I didn't catch a cold because I was wearing a mask. So this saved me from all the coughing and sneezing people on the trains you always have in autumn, winter. And so I am definitely wearing a mask again to not catch a cold from these people. Even if it's not COVID, I don't want to have a cold. And that worked for all the years we had the requirements, of the mask requirements on the train. So I will voluntarily do that. They will not, I don't think that we will have a mask requirement issued again. I don't think so, because COVID is now at a level. The idiots were all talking about it's nothing but a flu in the beginning of the pandemic. There, this wasn't true. COVID was much more dangerous than the flu in the beginning. But after all these variants and the evolution of the virus, now, to be honest, from my point of view, and that's what I hear from virologists as well, now you can compare this just to the flu. It will be a phenomenon that will be with us in the future. It will not go away. COVID will not go away. It will stay. And it will just be one of those things like the flu that's coming up every year, but it's from the danger level now, not more dangerous anymore. as I said, vulnerable people should vaccinate against COVID, of course, but they also should get their flu vaccination every year, and so there's no difference either. But for healthy people, there will not be any difference anymore, and so I do not think that we will be any COVID measures in the future again, unless there will be some unexpected mutation that goes a completely different direction. But under normal circumstances, there will not be any more I'm just wondering what happened now. Ellie, was that you? Oh God, Jeff Taylor as a name in the comments on my live stream. I only used him once here on my channel, but that's a long time ago. I don't know if somebody is watching right now who remembers my April's Fool's video a few years ago. You know, in front of the red curtain with a suit and everything. That was the only time I mentioned Jeff Taylor here, I think. But yeah, he was funny. But it's also funny what they're saying. There's another one that said he would leave YouTube forever. He tried to make more money outside of YouTube by taking his viewers with him. Obviously didn't work because as far as I got it, he's back on YouTube. He thought he's so influential that he can take them all with him to not hand over any of the proceeds to YouTube to make all the money himself. Well, he's back, so I think they didn't all follow him as he thought. So his Brexiteer viewers did not follow him. They're big influential leader all the way out of YouTube. Obviously didn't work. But I will not mention his name. But there are some of those out there. I haven't checked them for quite some time, I must say. That's I don't have much time, so I'm not wasting my time on certain people. But for having a laugh, for some time I should again to know what nonsense they are spreading this time. But there are so many politicians spreading nonsense since that time that I don't even have to watch the Brexiteer channels again. I can listen to one of the Brexiteer politicians, and then I hear what I would hear next day on those Brexiteer channels to get all the stuff. Nevertheless, are there any dog friends here? Because I can't go out of this live stream today without talking about dogs for a second. Because you will all have heard about the big discussion with the American XL bully dogs. Because Rishi Sunak said on Friday that American XL bully dogs would be banned by the end of the year. There were that was after a man was killed in a suspected attack on Thursday, but I read about more attacks. Sorry. I should drink more often before that happens in this dry air, and not only when it happens. But nevertheless, it's a serious topic, but there were more attacks I could read about in German newspapers, for example, because there were more attacks also on an 11-year-old girl that was in Birmingham, I guess. And Sunak said he shares the nation's horror regarding a series of serious dog attacks. And he says it's clear this is not about a handful of badly trained dogs, it's a pattern of behavior and it cannot go on. But knowing that, first of all, a man had been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter, and knowing about dogs, we have some dog breeds here that are under stricter regulations, so to speak, than others. But usually it's not the dog's fault from my personal experience, I don't have a dog because I am quite reasonable. I know that I don't have the time to walk the dog as much as he needs, to take it out as much as he needs. And although I like dogs very much, I don't have one myself. I grew up with dogs, but I know that you need time if you have a dog, and it's not good for a dog not to have enough time for it. That's why I don't have a dog myself. But I grew up with dogs. I know how to deal with dogs, so in the family at least, that you know yourself, and how to communicate with the dogs in your family. And so from my experience, it's normally in those cases, it's either the holder's fault because they're badly trained, they're badly treated. Of course, sometimes an animal can be ill and this happens, but that's the rare occasion. Usually it's the human's fault. And that's why we in Germany have some breeds that can be more dangerous, with the emphasis on can, where the human that wants this dog will be checked very carefully and checked regularly if he wants to have one of these dogs, and if he owns one of these dogs. We have very strict checks here on that. But forbidding a breed, they are a bit over us, but I think it's a little bit of a very strong measure. I mean, those XL Bully dogs, they were originally bred from American Pit Bull Terriers and American Staffordshire Terriers, and they first appeared in the UK around 2014 or 15. And the numbers were growing in recent years. But we have them in Germany as well, and in Germany they are not forbidden. But I still believe it's the problem of the holders and not of the dogs, because sometimes it's this illegal breeding. We have the problem here with some Eastern European markets, unfortunately, and smugglers. I saw a lot of reports here in Germany about the breeding in Eastern Europe and then sending them and selling them in Germany illegally, because the dogs then are very sick, and the holders will never be very happy because the dogs will be very sick, and that's this illegal breeding is the problem. But if they are bred by certified people, and of course then they have all the health checks they need, and they are raised properly until the point when they can go to an owner. But also the humans have to be checked very much. So I stick to my point that there is no too dangerous dog. There are dangerous humans involved here. I know very, very, very lovely dogs where you from first look would say, I will never even go near to that dog. But they are the loveliest creatures on earth because they were bred properly, they were raised properly, they were trained properly. And as long as they don't get a certain illness, which can happen to everyone, even to humans, they will never be aggressive to anyone. And so the humans are the problems and not the dogs. And I don't think that putting a ban on a certain breed will change anything. The owners will just get another dog, mistreat that dog as well, and then we will have the same problem as well. I don't know what you think, but it's not the animals, and Sock Juice agrees with me. Thank you very much for this. But that much of the dogs, but I didn't want to leave that out. And that is too long for today, but I will talk about this soon when I have a chance because all the British are not the only ones with issues at the moment with migration, but the dealing with it is a little bit different. And I had the Lampedusa thing as well on my schedule, and also some business insolvencies in England and Wales. But I will talk about this in some videos during the week. For today, I want to leave it at 1 hour. I hope you don't mind that I just do my 1 hour thing again, but that was so much work this weekend already, and the next week will be terrible, that I just want to thank everyone for coming to the live chat again this week. Thanks, Luke, for helping again. Very appreciate that very much. And thank my little small talk group on a Sunday again for joining. I always enjoy. I know that a lot of people will watch it later, but I always enjoy our little group that has kind of become a habit of the same people being there live. I know it's about the time, that's not more, but I don't mind. It's a small, cozy group. And as I said, I cannot guarantee next Sunday. So if I cannot manage with all the work this week and the 2 days away, I will set up a video for the time of the live stream. You will know on Sunday morning if there's no announcement on, as I said, on the channel page, then there will be no live stream. But there's another week anyway. We will definitely see us live again as well. So have a nice Sunday evening. You know, there are still a lot of videos on my channel. Maybe you skipped some, then you still have time for another. I'll see you there. I'll be back, and now I will fight with my system here again and try to get out of here with a little dignity. See ya.